22 West Radio is 22westmedia.com and 80.1 KKJZ HD3 Long Beach, Los Angeles. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Golden Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, and we're broadcasting live from California State University, Long Beach. If this is your very first time listening to the Golden Spotlight, a bit about the show. This show is a biography show where basically I get my guests to share their life story, and we get to know what it is that they do for their career, and pretty much provide tips for people who want to pursue that. Follow in their footsteps, and check out what they do. Okay, so at this time, I would like my guests to please introduce themselves.
I'm Shafali Mystery.
And hi, I'm Miles Nevin.
Your turn.
Oh, hi, I'm Carrie Cisna. I am the Executive Director of Leadership Long Beach, and I've been on the job for 5 weeks now.
Woo!
A month under your belt.
So right now the first question was, what was life growing up, elementary? Did you grow up with siblings?
Oh, yeah, I grew up in Illinois, actually, with one sister.
Cool. And elementary, what was that like?
Elementary school?
Yeah.
Oh, so long ago, but I had a wonderful experience. We were the monarch butterflies.
It's a great mascot.
Wow.
Right?
It's awesome.
Did you guys talk about elementary school?
Not
No,
yet.
not yet.
All right, we'll get there.
Continue, you
Well,
guys.
I grew up in Southern California, in Corona, not too far from here. So I've actually, I think I was just telling you recently, I've been in a 1 hour radius of here my entire life, other than traveling. So, but I love Southern California.
What about you?
Well, similar to Shafali, I am from this area as well. I grew up in Costa Mesa, and I moved to Long Beach in 2002 after being a student at Cal State Long Beach for a couple years. And I've been a Long Beach resident ever since.
Yeah, moved here in 03.
Yeah, and just adore the city like many. It's a place for anyone.
Cool. Middle school, what was middle school like?
Awful.
Tell more. Tell us more.
I think middle school is the worst thing that any child has to go through, especially if you're a girl. I just think it's such a rough age. I went to junior high, which is technically 7, 8. I didn't know the difference between junior high and middle school until a few years ago. But
Were you involved in any, activities in junior high?
not really. There weren't that many, though. I did dance and stuff outside of school, but I was just really awkward. I mean, I don't mean like everyone thinks they're awkward. I mean, people look at pictures and go, "Oh, wow." So, yeah, 7th grade was some fun. Or 8th grade.
Well, elementary and middle school for me was fine. It was I went to a small private Lutheran school from preschool to 8th grade, so I pretty much was with the same 28 people
Wow.
until I went to high school. And so, looking back, it was just a very sheltered environment. It's a very peaceful, I didn't have a real world experience until I went to a public high school, which was quite the culture shock, going from a 28-person class to a 3,000-person high school, public school.
Right?
But I managed,
Yeah.
still standing.
Do you guys still talk, the 28 of you?
I am more connected with some of them than people from high school, interestingly enough,
Wow.
It's that bond.
So high school, how was that, the transition to get to high school?
Well, I mean, going from private to public was quite hard, and I was upset at my parents. But, after a year or so, I navigated it and figured it out. And, I kind of kept to myself in high school. Started to do really well academically. Didn't really get involved. Met some friends, but pretty much kept to myself and just kind of persevered. So.
Did you do any, extracurricular
Yeah, no.
clubs, or were
I
you a
just
dancer?
went home and studied, and, that was it.
Wow.
Very
Miles is
buttoned
only a
up.
dancer in his bedroom.
Yeah, dancing in the shower.
Yeah.
So yeah, high school for you too?
High school was fine. Yeah, I don't know, but I hear people say that high school is sort of the worst, but I felt in high school people sort of left you alone. And I ran cross country. I still danced. I don't know. Social butterfly. It was cool.
Good.
Good time. Corona's a good place to grow up.
I've heard that from a lot of people. Good schools.
Good schools. Great schools.
So the awkward stage you came out of it in high school?
Sophomore year.
Yes.
But by that time, you're branded. You're done. It doesn't matter.
You're still awkward. Always awkward. Well, I went to Catholic school my freshman year, and I hated it. We had to wear uniforms, and I didn't know anyone. So then I begged my parents to go back to public school, and I did my sophomore year. And I felt free, and I loved it. I just was with the kids I grew up with. But I wanted to be a cheerleader really bad for some reason, so I tried out for 4 years in a row, 7th and 8th, my freshman and sophomore year, and I did not make it. And finally my junior year I made it. I made the JV team.
Aww.
But literally my mom was
That's so
just
great,
like,
though,
it's
you kept
such a good
doing
story. I kept trying. My mom's like, you're not a gymnast, like give up, please. And I just figured out it's all politics. Like, you have to just know the right people. And so I tell everyone that story because I think truly that's what leadership is all about. You just have to figure out who are the decision makers, and you have to get in there and be friends with them. So I became best friends with the coach's daughter, and I made it.
Nice. That is a lesson right there. Unfiltered from Carrie.
So,
I learned about politics early on.
Eventually, everybody in high school goes through that phase where they're like, in senior year, oh, what do I do? What's next? What school do I want to go to? What's going to be my major? What was that like for you? Did you know right away what you wanted to do?
Well, I wanted to go to a Lutheran college because I was
You did?
still this Bible thumping Lutheran boy. And so I applied to Concordia University in Irvine, which is very close to where I grew up, and Cal State Long Beach. And Cal State Long Beach was really a backup. And I got into Concordia, but it was so expensive I couldn't go. At the time it was $18,000 a year. That was 1999.
Wow.
So now it's probably what,
40.
40. And I only thought of Cal State Long Beach because I used to work with my dad in the summers. My dad was a contractor, a waterproofer, decker, kind of roofer. And we would drive up the 405 freeway going to Compton to where he had a main supplier where we'd get materials. So I'd always see the pyramid. And so I just knew Cal State Long Beach because of the pyramid. And certainly don't regret that decision. This place changed my life, and I love the beach so much. So that was
Really?
oh yeah. Yep.
You saved a lot of money too, right?
Saved a lot of money. When I started here, it was $900 and something per year. I think by the time I graduated, because that's when the tuition increases really started during that time, early 2000s, it was like $2,500 or something like that. It tripled, almost tripled. Yeah.
Well, what about you? How'd you find it?
I started at Riverside Community College, and that's a very long story. But by the time I left RCC, I knew that I wanted to go to art school. And I had a couple of teachers that were like, oh, you should go to Otis or Art Center, and I was just like, it was just prohibitively expensive, and I was like, I can't afford that. And so they were like, go to a Cal State then. Like, Cal State's have the best art programs, and Long Beach had the best. So I came here specifically for the BFA in drawing and painting. Transferred here in 2003. I was going to be a biology major. That's what I thought I was going to do,
Wow.
like, growing up. But yeah, it was kind of a long road, but it took me a while to get used to Long Beach and find my place here. And now I'm completely obsessed with Long Beach and with this university. And yeah, same thing. Changed my life. ASI changed my life.
Yeah, for sure. They put something in the water here.
Totally.
That's what happens.
I love it forever.
Start drinking the water.
I guess. I need to join ASI. Do they have like an alumni association?
You could. Do you have you have 3 degrees, don't you?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, you know.
Well, you're part of ASI now. You're part of 22 West.
Yeah.
Here you are.
Awesome. Yes. So when I was in college, I didn't know what to do, so I'm like, I'll just do what my parents did. I think a lot of people do that, right? You just follow your parents. Well, my parents are both ministers, so that was a unique path. So I went to college. I'm from Illinois. I went to college in Portland, Oregon, and was exposed to the West Coast for the first time, and a totally different culture, and it's very organic and nature and tree huggers. I love that. And I became student body president my senior year. And from there I thought, oh, I think I would rather be a college president. Like I loved being student body president. So I kind of went on that trajectory to be a college president and did a master's and then got a doctorate and just climbed the ladder in higher ed and then started teaching. I raised money, I ran housing and residence life programs, I was leadership development coordinator, so I did a lot of different stuff in higher ed. But just in my own journey, kind of evolving and realizing it's going to be hard for me to run an organization if I've never run an organization. So this being an executive director is a great opportunity for me to see what it's like to actually run an organization and to apply some of the things that I've learned about leadership and leadership development. And yeah, I was kind of evolving out of, I've been at Pepperdine for 15 years, so I needed a new change. And I love Leadership Long Beach. I just really believe in its mission. And so, yeah, happy to be here. I love everything about Long Beach. I can't believe it's such a cool city.
Did you live here before, or did you have to move?
I just moved here last week, yeah.
Okay.
So it's all new.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And there's layers to Long Beach, for
Totally.
real. You get in and it's like you learn so much more.
Well, being in your new role will help with that because you're going to be so connected to so many populations, so many key people, figures.
Right away. That's
So-
awesome.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think Long Beach is one of those places that encourages folks to come and is
Mhm.
accepting and inclusive, not like some communities that are like, you know, this is our special little place.
Mm-hmm.
So our borders are porous.
Totally.
I hope you find that. I think you will.
Mm-hmm. It's a unique culture too. Like one thing I've learned quickly about Long Beach is everybody asks you, where do you live? That's the first question. Where outside of Long Beach, people usually say, where do you work? That's a
Mm.
big, that's the first thing. Where do you work? But here it's like, where do you live?
Mm.
Isn't it interesting?
Yeah, it is.
Like
I
what
definitely
part
do
of the
ask
city?
people, where do you live?
Yeah.
But I feel like I did that in LA too. I don't know.
It's like, yeah.
Maybe that's because I was from here. Then I went to LA and started asking people where they live.
Because the districts are so unique and
They are in the
so
neighborhood.
telling and
Mhm.
it gives you information you need. It's a really neat thing.
Excellent. We'll be right back after our first commercial break.
You have commercial breaks?
Mm-hmm.
So Rob, what's your major?
Journalism.
Awesome.
Yeah.
What year are you?
Since 2017, the fall.
I'm Rob Flores, the host of the Golden Spotlight.
This is my
Join
commercial.
me every Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific as I showcase a variety of guests.
I lost my vision in 1997.
I am what they refer to as an exoneree.
Hi, I'm Carla Perez, otherwise known as
Yes, Carla.
Rita Repulsa, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers,
No, I
the
don't.
television series.
As people have told me before, like, you're really funny, you should try stand-up. And that's probably how every comedian starts.
Took an EMT course 6 months later, and the next thing I know, I was a firefighter. You know, I studied for a little while at the U.S. Institute of Peace.
Every week, someone steps into the spotlight and shares their story. You never know what we have in store on 22S Radio.
With an alarming number of Long Beach State students being food insecure, ASI decided to
Pretty
act on
much
the
as I
issue.
played
The beach pantry has helped many students on campus
have
struggle
to
with food
write
insecurity.
down the name
The
of
number of donations
commercial,
made to the
times
pantry
that it
keep
played,
increasing
in case
over the
they get
semesters.
audited and stuff
With
like
your
that.
help, the beach pantry
And
can
then-
provide for more students.
That's
If
pretty much
donating
one
is
of the
something
only
you'd
rules they
like to
have for
do,
people when
visit
they
the
start
beach
shows is
pantry office
write
in the
down all
student
that
union
stuff
in
and
room
then no
302
cursing.
and online at
That's about it. No
www.asi.com and simply search Beach Pantry. Reporting for 22S Radio, I'm Guadalupe Perez.
We'll be right back now after this ID. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Golden Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, and we are broadcasting live from California State University, Long Beach, and you are listening to the Golden Spotlight. And of course, you know, part of our procedure as we end every commercial is we have everybody reintroduce themselves again.
I'm Miles Nevin.
I'm Shafali Mystery.
And I'm Carrie Cisna.
Cool. Now, back to, you know, you were mentioning about the colleges you went to. I was wondering also, did you get a chance to partake also in extracurricular activities like clubs and student government and stuff like that too?
Yep, well, I think we all did. Like Shafali said earlier, for me, the most significant experience I had in college was being involved in ASI, of which 22 West is a program. And just meeting people who are other student leaders and being involved in the student organizing on campus, advocacy, it's just great, life-changing. I was also in a fraternity, Delta Chi, was in the Criminal Justice Student Association because I was a criminal justice major. I wanted to be a cop. Can you believe it?
I did not know that.
And I was also involved in the Cal State Student Association, which is the statewide sort of ASI for the whole system. So that was me.
I was here a couple of years before getting involved in anything, and I started with some campus club meeting that had to do with like protesting student fees or something like that, and ran into somebody. We all had to introduce ourselves, and I met somebody that night who turned to me later and said, "Oh, well, if you're an art student, you should run for senator for College of the Arts." And I was like, "I don't run for office, I don't campaign, that's not my style, I don't like speaking in front of people, I don't like talking about myself." And he sort of explained the filing process and that there was a deadline, and if nobody else filed other than these two people, that was it. And I was like, all right, I'll think about it. And then ended up doing it, became senator for the College of the Arts, and then became ASI president the following year. And yeah, it completely changed my life. I met Miles.
That's right.
I learned how to speak in front of groups because you have to, trial by fire. Get comfortable talking about everything and anything, including yourself. But, you know, you meet so many different kinds of people on campus. You're working with staff and faculty and students and administrators, and it's just ASI, the way that ASIs are set up in the CSU is such a unique model of student leadership and education, and by the time I graduated, I was leaps and bounds ahead of other people in my understanding of the nonprofit world and how to work with kind of all levels of people in my job and stuff like that. ASI forever.
Was that the first time you were in a leadership role? Like that?
No, I did stuff at community college as well. But it's just so different here. Because it's a nonprofit corporation, and there's all of these sort of different facets to it, including this, and then the student union, and the rec center referendum got passed the year that I was president, and there's the recycling center and the child development center, and so there's like all of these things that are part of what, as a student, you're helping to lead, whether you're on a board or a commissioner or whatever. It's just a completely different experience. So.
And you guys met this way?
By that time, Miles was already graduated and was working in student life and development, and I met him through that while I was a student leader.
Which is an office located in the student union. It's a university office located in the student union.
So you remember her when she was a student leader?
Yeah. And then I left student life to become executive director of the Cal State Student Association.
Which I was involved with as well
You were
when
a
I was a
board member.
student.
So we kind of stayed in different contexts
Ah.
and then became friends.
I have a lot of Delta Chi friends. We have a lot of mutual circles.
That's another thing that, and we've talked about this, that you find in Long Beach is you end up recognizing that your circles are all sort of concentric and intertwined. It's kind of weird, but fun.
Yeah.
Oh, so for me, when I went to college in Portland,
What school did you go to?
It's called Warner Pacific University. It's a small liberal arts school, and I got really involved in student government right away. And I knew my freshman year I'm going to be student body president my senior year. So then I knew, okay, every person I meet along the way is a potential vote or.
That's so interesting.
Yeah,
I was
campaigning.
asked to run and kept saying no.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was strategizing. I started my campaign early on. And so, and then there's also, volunteering I did. So I would go to the Union Rescue Mission. That was the first kind of exposure to homelessness, and some justice issues and inequality. So it was really eye-opening for me to come to this new world on the West Coast, and I never want to go back to Illinois. I'm a West Coast girl for life now.
Cool. Now, books can be expensive. Obviously, midterms and finals can possibly be the most stressful time of a student's life. I was wondering, did you have to balance work at the same time? What was that like for you? What were the strategies that you used to succeed in finals and midterms?
Yeah, I always had a job, and I worked in the mailroom, and I worked in the student union. So I always found jobs on campus. That was a huge strategy for me because you're there, it's so easy, you don't have to worry about the commute. And then, yeah, I remember those stressful times. I would recommend sleep, because I know what we would do is pull these all-nighters, and it was crazy because you don't sleep. And I had a friend who pulled 3 all-nighters in a row during finals week, and she was just such a blubbering idiot at the end. Like, you cannot retain information. So I think that's some things that we don't realize in college, how important sleep is. And so if you can prioritize sleep, you actually will retain more information. So study and then sleep, your brain actually regurgitates it and memorizes it, and it's just easier for you in the end. But that's usually the first thing to go is your health. And so along with that, just eating healthy, really, you are putting energy into your body. And so when we're drinking a lot of soda or drinking junk food, it's like, it's all connected. We don't realize how connected our bodies are to our mind. And in college, we just don't think about it because you're having so much fun and you're just doing whatever's quick and easy. And so I think this generation's way more mindful than my generation was. But I just remember drinking these huge soda pops and not sleeping during finals week. And it's the worst ever. If I were to do it again, I would be doing yoga to clear the mind, and then studying, and then getting a full night's rest. And I think I would have been more successful.
I was an art student. Art students don't sleep anyway. So our buildings are open 24 hours a day. You can walk in 24 hours a day and you will find students working. They're the hardest working students on campus, I would argue. People will argue with me. That's why I say I would argue. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to, I can't give as thoughtful of an answer because I ended up getting my MFA 5 years later, or starting it 5 years later. I got it 4 years ago. I am a procrastinator, always have been, probably always will be. Still pulled all-nighters in grad school. But I don't know, painting and making art or whatever, it's a little bit different the way that your brain works when you're doing that kind of stuff. And I'm a night owl, so.
True.
But yeah, I worked all through college, mostly in restaurants, and I worked at a couple of Mexican restaurants, 3 different TGI Fridays. I always had to work anywhere from like 24 to, what is the ASI president, hourly, 32 hours a week, something like that.
Wow.
Always had to work. Actually had teachers in the art program who said things like, you can't be a BFA student and work. And I was like, well, if you want to kick over your trust fund and pay my bills, then I won't work. But yeah, I don't know. It was really, really part of the culture in that department to just, everyone was always working all night. So why would midterms and finals be any different? I don't know. It was an experience.
It was.
It's still the only thing I can really pull an all-nighter for. I can't do that, like studying or reading or writing.
But with art you can.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's therapeutic for you, right?
It can be. It can also just be really stressful, but yeah, it can be super, like, meditative.
So I started working when I was 15, and I worked for an upholstery shop in Costa Mesa, which was interesting. Even though I was just like the janitor, you know, just cleaning up the shop after school every day.
Do you just, like, walk in and fill out an application for that
I
job?
went to, what was it called? I think most communities had it, not have it anymore, but back when you could get a working permit when you were 15, there was like a agency, like youth employment agency. I went there and they would recommend you. I worked there for about a year, and via the upholstery shop, I met an owner of a carpet company or a flooring company, and he sort of stole me away, offered me more money than they were giving me, and I ended up working for them almost 7 years, so through high school and then like half of college.
Wow.
And they treated me well and would adjust my schedule every semester when my class schedule changed.
That's awesome.
And then I had some other odd jobs in college. My most favorite was as a valet. I was a valet at the Ritz Chris Steakhouse in Irvine.
Ooh.
So I got the best cars. It was great.
Awesome.
Made good money, and becoming a supervisor of that valet stand. Yeah, I think, I mean, college, no matter where you come from or who you are, how much money you have to pay for things, it's hard for everyone. And for me, I was in that group of people whose parents made too much money to qualify for aid, but whose parents didn't have enough money to give you any money.
Me too.
So, survived off working, credit cards, and loans. And I graduated with about 16 grand in loans, about 10 grand in credit card debt. And at the time it felt insurmountable, and I would always be in debt, but
But now I have $50,000 of debt from grad school.
And my friends have like 200, and I'm like, I'm fine.
Totally.
So,
So true.
yeah.
Going to private school for grad school made me value my CSU education even more.
I bet.
Well, and not just because of the sort of cost issue, but I don't feel like I got a better education for what I paid for grad school. Like the education that I got here, I think, was superior. So,
It's telling.
yeah.
I think that's a good point you make about debt, though, because it does feel insurmountable and it feels scary, but you really have to continue to view it as you're making a huge investment in yourself, and it will pay off in the end.
Mm-hmm.
And after 10 years, yeah, or more. Yeah.
Yeah, and there's this understanding amongst some communities across this nation that all debt's the same, and it's not. You go to the CSU, and on average, our students are graduating with, it's like 16,000 is the average or something. Nationwide, it's almost double, and all debt's not created equally. So,
But this
Yeah.
campus is one of the best, right?
Yeah.
It's got one of the lowest student debt rates in
Yeah.
CSU, I think.
No, it's not bad.
So-
16 grand for a BA.
right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's thrown too by some of the campuses that have higher fees.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So,
But I would say with the books too, one thing that I didn't have, that students now have, is you can get books from interlibrary loan, right?
Mhm.
You can get any book, pretty much. And getting digital books online is so much easier. So I wouldn't spend a ton of money on books now. And I encourage my students to just check out books from the library, unless you really love having that book to mark up. And with books, yeah, are so easy to get online. Save some money. Any other strategies you guys think of?
I was spending money on art supplies, so in one semester I remember spending almost $1,000 in art supplies. And I
Those are
actually didn't
expensive.
show up to class a couple of times because I couldn't afford whatever was required for the next class. Did not go over well with my faculty. But I literally didn't know what else to do, like show up and not do anything. Yeah, art supplies. I mean, I am one of those people that likes having my books to mark up and
highlight.
dog ear and stuff like that, but art students, man.
Yeah. I can't imagine. Yeah. That's
So expensive to go to art school.
one of the most vivid memories I have of struggling in college was sometimes being hungry, and the student union was such a savior for me because the El Pollo Loco would do that dollar menu,
Oh yeah,
and I wouldn't have any money, and I would eat a BRC burrito for $1,
me too.
like midday, and it would be so like it got me through. So I'm so glad there's such an attention now on basic needs at all of our campuses, and we have pantries and emergency funding for students, gift cards, all sorts of things, because they need it, and the numbers show it. We have, I think last year we had over 30,000 unique visits at our pantry. That's just one campus.
Awesome.
So, I could use that when I was here.
Yeah. I'm at the Chancellor's office for the Cal State system, and it's really amazing to see that from the vantage point of the Chancellor's office and see what all of the campuses are doing and how differently they're doing it, but how basically students have really taken this up for themselves to help each other. It's amazing.
Yeah.
So after graduating, what happened after? How did you get to where you are today now?
Well, I graduated in 2008, right into the recession. And it was a perfect storm of like, I have a Bachelor of Fine Arts in Drawing and Painting, which is about the most unmarketable degree you can get. I don't regret it. And graduating into the recession and just total paralysis. I froze and I don't know what happened. I think it was just total anxiety, and I didn't know what to call it. I didn't know what it was for a long time. That couldn't like get my cover letters and resumes done, and like start applying for jobs. So I waited too long, and the economy totally tanked. And then I just started taking whatever I could get, and there was something called University by the Sea that was happening in Long Beach for a few years. Do you remember that?
Absolutely.
It was this arts and culture festival that happened downtown, and my friends Ryan and Rachel were running it, and I just happened to walk into their office one day just to say hi, and was talking about how I was like looking for a job, and Rachel was like, "Do you want a full-time event planning internship?" I was like, "Yeah," and I got a month-long paid internship job, helping to put together that festival. And then Sarah Palin happened, and I got really, really angry and texted a couple of friends and said, "How do I get on the Obama campaign and get paid?" And they were like, "You have to leave the state." I was like, "All right, where do I go?" And they said Nevada, and my mom lives in Vegas, and so as soon as my internship was done, like the next week, I was living in Vegas with my mom, and I worked on the Obama campaign 6 days a week, knocking on doors, for a month until the election. Came back, got a job in a bar, was working in a bar for the next 9 months. During that time, I got a paid internship at the Long Beach Museum of Art, part-time. Was unemployed for a few months. Did an unpaid internship during that time in a gallery, realized I did not want to do gallery work. And then I kept interviewing and not getting the job, becoming a finalist, not getting the job. And then I finally landed at Otis College of Art and Design. And at the time I was looking for like the sort of 4 things. I thought, okay, education, fundraising, nonprofit, arts. If I could get like 2 of the 4, that would be really cool. And Otis gave me 4 out of 4. And it was a dream job. It was so fun. I ended up getting my master's degree there. But it took me 2 years to land at Otis, almost. It was an experience, for sure, but it was, at the time, super stressful. But, I mean, I had some crazy, I would never have gotten to work on the Obama campaign if I had landed in a job, you know. It was awesome.
Yeah, it's a unique experience.
Yeah. And it was, you know, having been ASI president, everyone was like, "What's wrong with you? Why can't you find a job?" And I was like, "It's not my fault." It was a little bit my fault. But I'm going to blame it on the recession.
That's part of it.
Your turn.
Oh, fine. Well, I'm not a cop. Surprise, surprise. You know, every time I tell anybody that knows me that was my original goal, they're like, "What?" But yeah, that's what it was. I developed a passion for this idea of being an educator through ASI. Seeing Linda Sherwood, who was our student government advisor, and people in student life and development like Jeff Claus and all them. I thought, that's cool. And so that's the route I wanted to go. And so when I graduated, you have to have a master's degree to work on a college campus, basically in any department, and I didn't. So I was able to land a job at St. Anthony High School in downtown Long Beach through a friend. And I was the assistant to the president. So it's a Catholic high school with a principal-president model, and I was working for the president doing fundraising, media relations, stuff like that. Loved it. And a year and a half in, I got laid off because of their budget issues and the archdiocese coming in on them and wanting to change things around. And I was devastated. But looking back, I'm so glad I got laid off from a job because I have that experience of struggling through that time, which was really hard. And having to give up my apartment because I couldn't find another job right away. I had a former professor, Craig Smith, who's retired, who owns a duplex, but one of his units is always empty. And he put me up for 3 years and refused to ever make me pay rent.
I didn't know that part.
You know, I had to do a little gardening out front and check the mail and water the plants and all those things. But, you know, just another example of an amazing connection I made here, a friend I made through this campus. And someone who has done similar things for other students just because he cares so much. I ended up getting a job here in student life and development and did my master's while I was here. Jeff Claus, who was the director at the time, took a chance on me, even though I didn't have the degree requirements. And then I went to CSSA Cal State Student Association. Left there for a brief.
Transform that organization.
Yeah, had the opportunity to really fix some things that were problematic with the organization, which is a very long story. My first nonprofit kind of, first nonprofit experience really. Left there for a brief time to go to Children Today, which is another nonprofit in Long Beach that provides education to homeless kids. And then went back to CSSA because they recruited me to be their
That's
executive
when
director.
I transformed it. Sorry, I got ahead of myself.
And then left that to go to Long Beach City College to be a chief of staff to a president, which was an amazing experience. And then did the same thing at the Coast Community Colleges before coming here. So I've only been here 7 months, and this job is amazing. Getting to work on a college campus in a student government environment. For the kind of students that have come through here and have amazing ideas and keep us on our toes. I'm so grateful and privileged. So here I am. Been here 7 months.
I don't think you've actually said what your position is here.
Oh, I'm the executive director of ASI on campus here. So, yeah.
So when I was in college, as student body president, I remember I redesigned the meal plan that year. I went to my president and said we should redo our meal plan and this is what it should be. And they still have it today like that. So it's just super empowering to see my mind it's natural for me to run this organization. And I really like about universities is that you're empowering people in every field and every institution to go out and change the world. And so I'm that's way better than working in a church. And so I wanted to, mobilize leaders on a grand scale to change the world. And so that's why I've been working in higher ed, and I got my master's from Azusa Pacific here in California. And then I got my first job out of college out of my grad program, was to be a resident director of a leadership development community. So I ran this apartment complex and all my students were leaders and they had to do community service. So I taught a lot of leadership workshops and did service projects. So then I became hooked and I read every leadership book and knew that that's the field I wanted to do. So then I moved back to California and got a job at Pepperdine as leadership development coordinator, and I was the student government advisor, and I did that for 3 years, and then I got a job running our housing and residence life program. So and I took that because we had 100 student leaders that I would supervise, and there was 2,200 beds on campus and 12 professional staff all reporting to me, and I felt like that's a way to really shape a college community and shape leaders. And so I did that, and then a college president told me you should get some fundraising experience if you want to be a president one day. And so that was the best advice I'd ever been given, because up until that point I had always done humanitarian roles or more relationship roles. I've never really thought through the business side of things, although I had a $22 million budget from running housing and residence life. But I had never had to worry about bringing in money. And so being a fundraiser, I just encourage anyone to take a job that challenges their skill set, because you will learn a new skill set, and kind of looking at your resume as a portfolio. And for your next job, it may not be the perfect job, but it might give you a skill set you need. And so I love all the internships you referred to, Shafali, and just knowing I just needed to take something. So sometimes you just have to take something, but even if it is at a restaurant or it's an internship, it may not pay well, but you're going to get the skill set you need to manage a budget or whatever it is that you need. So for me, I really needed to think through, I didn't grow up with a lot of money, so I needed to be around people who have a lot of money to know how they think and why they give and get into their heads. And so that's basically the skill set I gained from that. So I did really well after a year and a half. I raised a couple $1 million actually for the university, and I got this fancy title called Assistant Vice Chancellor. And it was awesome, and made really good money. That's the other thing about fundraising. You make the most money in higher ed that I've seen.
Maybe at Pepperdine.
No, maybe not. So,
not in the CSU.
maybe not in CSU, okay. So maybe that's not across the board. But typically a sales role or fundraising role, you can make more money, or you can make pretty good money. So, but after doing that for 5 years, I just knew I was evolving as a leader and kind of had mastered fundraising and need to at the time was thinking I need to teach leadership. So I finished a PhD in global leadership and change and started working on publications. So I have 3 published books, actually 4, because one's coming out soon. And working on getting some articles published and doing some research and learning what it's like to be a teacher in the classroom. And yeah, I'm just in love with leadership. So that's why I'm at Leadership Long Beach. I believe in what we do, and I think the world needs to hear about Leadership Long Beach because it's a model that works. It really works. I've studied leadership a lot, and so to find an organization that's producing so many high quality leaders across so many fields, like we really are mobilizing leaders to make a difference in this city. And so it was an easy transition.
Well, welcome to Leadership Long Beach. It's so exciting to have you.
Thank you.
I didn't know all that about you. It's exciting.
Yeah, it's so exciting. I have so many thoughts too about the program and just the alumni I meet, you guys know, but when you go through Leadership Long Beach, it's just a very empowering thing. You realize what your superpower is, or you realize what your strengths are, and then you go out into whatever your community is and make a difference.
We'll be right back after a second commercial break.
I love it.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Golden Spotlight. I'm your host, Rob Flores, and we are broadcasting live from California State University, Long Beach. This is 22 West Radio, and I'm back here with my guests. So, of course, now we're getting to the part of, the organization you represent. First of all, putting in the plugs. How can people, learn more? Where do they find it online and stuff?
Are we talking Leadership Long Beach or where we are all currently stationed?
Everything, all the plugs.
Oh, now we get to plug the organization. Yeah, so the thing that brought us together today is Leadership Long Beach, and this organization has been around for 30 years, and just mobilizing leaders, empowering leaders from every field. So we're very intentional to bring together leaders from the nonprofit world, the for-profit world, and businesses and government. And they run through a 10-month program, a Leadership Institute, which I will let Shefali talk about because she's in their current class for 2020. You're gonna tell us like, how did you hear about it, and like.
My gosh, so I've been in Long Beach for this August will be 17 years, which seems crazy. But I have just met so many people who've been through the program over the years. And I just knew that it was something I wanted to do because it's people that I respect and I care about and I love, and it just seemed like something I should do and something I wanted to be part of. I am on the Human Relations Commission for the City of Long Beach, and I'm technically an at-large appointment, and despite the fact that I had been here for, I think, 15 years at the time, I didn't feel like I knew the city well enough to be an at-large appointment. Like, I live in the 2nd District. I've been there for a really long time. I've become more of a homebody as I get older, and I just kind of frequent the same spots, and I know that there are parts of Long Beach I don't know as well, and so I thought, one of my reasons was I thought Leadership Long Beach would be a good way to sort of connect me with parts of the city I didn't already know, and, become part of the alumni community that you were talking about. So it's been interesting. The thing that I like the most about Leadership Long Beach is, unlike other cities that have leadership programs attached to their city, it's not chamber-based, so it's not solely focused on business. It's focused on all of the different sort of facets of the city, the arts, education, the nonprofit sector, public service, public safety, all these different things that you're going to learn about. And I really, really appreciate having a sort of holistic view of the city that way, and that people who are in the program who aren't aware of those things learn about them. I really appreciate that.
So, you did the program a few years ago?
Yeah, I did the, I was in the 2014 class. So what is it? Silver class.
We don't even have a name.
Yeah, because we were the, 25th? Silver. So anyway, yeah, 2014. I've never had like a super duper interest in leadership. I've always done it because I felt like it was the right thing to do, the thing I needed to do to make myself better.
Yeah.
And to help me always be oriented toward acting and serving So it's really sort of a practical thing for me. And so Leadership Long Beach was just the next iteration of that sort of mindset at that time in my life. And I saw a lot of other people doing it. And I had respect for the legacy of the organization. So my first boss at St. Anthony High School, Gina Rushing at the time, Gina McGuire now, she was one of the founders of Leadership Long Beach. And so she really talked about it a lot. You know, I was young, my first job out of college, I kept hearing about it and then seeing my friends go through it. I felt like it was a rite of passage in the community, and I really enjoyed it. I have really specific memories of the oil day. I don't know if we still do it, like the carbon footprint day or whatever it was called. And you go and look at all the refineries and all the bad byproducts of the industry in Long Beach, and that was really interesting. Being on a city bus all day long for the Arts Day, going to different museums, was just kind of a profound experience. And then meeting people. John Glaza, who was our sort of coach and is yours as well, became a friend, and I hired him in another organization I worked at to do strategic planning and org development. And he's still a friend. So it's all that.
Funny because I met John Glaza when I worked here at the University Art Museum, because Chris Scotes, the former director, is one of his best friends. And so when I started Leadership Long Beach, he was like, "Hey." It is a
So
small
are you
world.
friends with people in your class still from 2014?
A couple, yeah, or at least see them around the community, and we're all part of the old crew.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like you, I think it's an amazing organization. I'm really excited you're here, not just because you're so qualified, but I think the organization needs to define what its next chapter is. And as an alum, I have constructive criticisms for the program model. I think it's time to do something. And so high expectations for you.
Yeah.
And we can talk more about that offline.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah.
I'm really excited to explore those conversations. And the thing is we've kind of inherited these antiquated leadership models where we believe one person has leadership ability and has all the power and makes the decision and kind of disseminates that. But I really believe in more democratic models of leadership where you disseminate power and decision making based on people's strengths. And therefore, there's not like one leader necessary, there's one person holding the mic but sharing it with others. And I think Leadership Long Beach has been doing this model for 30 years, and that it really works of empowering people based on their strengths. And so we also have a 6-week program for executives who don't have time for a 10-month program but need to learn about Long Beach quick. And in that program, they each learn what their strengths are, what their top 5 strengths are, and they interpret that into their superpower. And the reason why I like strength, we have a strengths finder, we use Gallup, which is strengths finder inventory, and the chances of someone having your top 5 strengths are 1 in 33 million. So you really do have a superpower as a leader that most other people in your community don't have. So when you can identify what your superpower is and what your strengths are as a leader, it's something you can bring to the table, and it makes your voice so valuable. And when people know that, they go out, and especially when they're connected to everybody else's superpowers, they know who to call and they know how to get things done and make changes. That's why we're really seeing a difference on a grand scale across the city. So I'm hearing so many alumni stories of people who, like McGuire, who you just talked about, her name's Gina McGuire. She started a leadership program, right, at St. Anthony's.
I'm sure she did.
Yeah, she was telling me about that. And Mario works at the port, and he has 50 paid internships. And then you see Mary, who just got a role as a city councilwoman. She went through our program as well. And after the program, she just knew she had to make a difference and run for office. And even our mayor is like our poster child. And what I love about our mayor is how he's really into superpowers and this figures, like superheroes.
That's Superman.
And so City Hall has a Christmas tree with these superheroes. And I think that's such a good image of Long Beach and this program in particular. But I love that the mayor is like a poster child, that we all have superpowers. Because our world needs a new model of leadership. And we're doing it in Long Beach. We have 30 years of data and stories that show this model works. And so I think if anyone out there's listening is considering doing Leadership Long Beach, you will understand what your superpower is as a result, but also you'll be so connected and know who to call to make things happen. you get exposed to city council meetings, you actually do a mock city council meeting, so you know how to make policy and who makes the policy and how to have a voice in that.
That's
And
the
you-
executive one?
Yeah, we're gonna be doing that in March, actually.
Oh, cool.
And so you get to see how to really make a difference and how your vote really can make a difference on a local level and how important government is on a local level. But not even that, just the partnerships like you were saying with the city and with the refineries and with the businesses and how it's all connected. And I mean, if you look at every major religion, the apex of spirituality is when you realize we're all connected. And so that's a byproduct of this leadership program too, is understanding that we're all connected and you can operate on a high level. And then we're so diverse because we have people from every industry, every ethnicity, every religious group, every sexual orientation. I think because of that, you have such strength in innovation and creativity, because diversity is the catalyst for innovation. And so you can look at our city and see the byproduct of these kind of ideals, and this is what the world needs right now. So my goal is really just to tell the story. How do we tell the world about Long Beach and what's happening with Leadership Long Beach? We also have a youth program, so we bring together high schoolers from 10 different high schools, and we put them through a 10-month leadership program. And they do a mock city council meeting. I wish I would have had that as a youth. I probably would have ran for office too, maybe. So.
Oh, cool. Well, time goes by so fast. We have like our last 3 minutes, but I always ask my guests this question, and it's a two-part. It's where do you see yourself after retirement, and what would you like your legacy to be?
Wow. Well, I want to be a bartender in retirement.
Really?
I always have. I just think it'd be the coolest retirement job. You know, just sit behind a bar, kind of like a pub, easygoing.
Have you worked in a restaurant?
No, but I've been to a lot of bars. So I'm gonna leave you all with that. And
Legacy?
you know, one of the main reasons I took this job is because former student leaders kept calling me and saying, this is the job for you,
Including me.
including Shafali. And I hope that's true in 30 years from now, is that I have, you know, former colleagues, students I've worked with who are who recognize that, you know, we had an impact together, and that's so meaningful. I mean, there's nothing better than that. So I'll leave it with that.
My career has been so interesting. My background is in the arts. Like I said, I was an art student. I started at Otis in terms of sort of like my first permanent full-time job. Ended up here at the museum for a few years. Now at the Cal State system. People keep asking me what I want to do long term, and I honestly have no idea. I don't know that I saw myself in any of these places necessarily. Like, when the chancellor's office job came up, I, in my head, thought, no way. Why would I work at the chancellor's office? And it's been the best thing that's ever happened to me. I mean, it's just been an extraordinary opportunity. And so I think I just want to kind of keep my mind open for wherever life takes me and what's next. But the thing that I've sort of realized as I've grown and as I've grown more confident in myself and in my career is, and as I've been through some really difficult personal things over the last few years, that I second guess myself a lot, but I believe that I'm a good person, and I have seen that I've made positive impacts on people, whether that's not that I'm doing something for anybody in particular, but that people have come through for me in ways that have been really meaningful over the last few years. And so I'm rambling a little bit, but I want to look back and know that people felt like I cared about them, and that I cared about the organizations that I worked for, and that I did my best and worked hard, and I think most importantly left a legacy of kindness behind me, because that has been, I think, my biggest lesson over the last few years, is just understanding how far that goes. And I don't know, I mean, there's an example with you where I called Miles when the chancellor's office job came up and said, hey, I might need your help with this, like, would you be willing to be a reference for me. And I've always looked up to Miles. He's one of my favorite people in the world. And he said, I would walk in hot coals for you. And that just like, to this day, it's one of my favorite things anybody's ever said to me. And it just meant so much to me because it meant that he like cared about me and respected me as a person. So, sorry, that was a little bit windy. But
I'm just gonna retire with Miles somewhere.
that might actually happen. Yeah, I don't know. I just want to have a legacy of hard work and kindness.
I want to travel a lot when I retire. I've always said that I'm going to be a college president one day, maybe like in my 60s, and then I'll run for office in retirement.
Legacy?
Yeah. So first leadership Long Beach, and then let's take it. I think this is a model that the world needs. So we need to make a new world.
Oh, in retirement, I'm going to be one of those like 70-year-old ballerinas.
Yay! I'll come watch you.
And I'm going to paint and drink.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for taking the time to be here on the Golden Spotlight.
Thank you.
Thank
Yay,
you.
Good job.
Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes this episode of the Golden Spotlight. Until next time, folks.